A few months ago, I made a video where I talked about my favorite punch needle tools and supplies. And recently, I realized there are a bunch of tools and supplies I love using in punch needle that are, well, a little bit random. But just because they're random doesn't mean that someone watching won't find them helpful. And I hate gatekeeping information that actually might help someone. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 random, unconventional, obscure tools and supplies that I love using in punch needle. And here is the first thing I love using. You're probably wondering, what in the world is this? This, my friends, is paraffin wax. It's normally used for making candles, but I learned that it's incredibly helpful for punch needling. Let me explain. Sometimes you might run into a situation where your foundation fabric is a little bit tough or stiff to punch through. This might be an everyday situation for those with disabilities or conditions that affect the grip strength of their hands. In either case, having foundation fabric that's too stiff isn't great because it puts strain on your hands and wrists. So rubbing some paraffin wax on your foundation fabric can help soften it up, which will help you punch needle more easily because there will be less resistance in terms of getting your needle through the fabric. Plus, paraffin wax is great because you don't really need too much of it. Most people probably have some lying around in their homes, and if you don't, it's pretty much available in most stores, and it's not incredibly expensive to get a huge block that'll probably last you like 20 years. And I gotta shout out my punch needle instructor for showing me this trick while I was doing my in-person punch needle certification lessons. Thanks, Simone! Now let's get into some really weird stuff. This is a body brush, or body exfoliator, I don't know. All I know is that it's to scrub your body. It's been sitting in my house for over 15 years, and in those 15 years, not a single person has used it, as far as I know. So I stole it for my rugs. Let me explain how I use this by showing you my current project. Well, a small part of it. This is my punch needle certification rug that I'm working on. In this rug, I have to demonstrate a certain number of punch needle techniques to prove that I actually know what I'm doing. One of the techniques I chose is sculpting. This basically means clipping your loops to sculpt them into a shape. It's pretty cool. If you want to learn more about that, I'd encourage you to look up waldoboro-style rugs because that's kind of where the technique got its start. Anyways, clipping loops means that you end up with a bunch of yarn fibers everywhere, and your clipped area ends up looking really messy. I found that this brush is great for collecting the yarn fibers and also for getting the area with the clipped loops all nice and straightened out, ready for me to sculpt. Which brings me to my third tool, bent scissors. I find that these scissors are super great for sculpting because you can really get into the loops with them and have clean, rounded edges while doing so. I use regular scissors for sculpting as well, but with regular scissors, there's always a risk of cutting into the foundation fabric, especially as you're sculpting around the edges, and I absolutely do not want that to happen, especially not on my certification rug. So bent scissors really help minimize that risk, in my opinion. Now let's take a step back for a second because there are a lot of steps involved in punch needling. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know this already. And one of these steps is drawing your pattern or design on your foundation fabric. Something that I noticed to be, I guess, kind of an issue or concern for punch needlers is drawing circles onto your foundation fabric. It's not the absolute biggest deal if, let's say, your design is on a square or rectangular rug and there's circle shapes on there, but it becomes more of an issue when you want to make a circular rug. Of course, there's always the method of drawing your pattern onto paper and then tracing it, but either way, you have to be able to make a large enough circle in the first place. Most compasses, like those in a geometry set, aren't really big enough to make rug-sized circles. So my favorite tool for making large circles are these. These are trammel points, and how they work is they screw onto something like a meter stick and turn that meter stick into a giant compass. You can buy trammel points from any hardware or home improvement store, or even Amazon, but for any Canadians watching, I bought mine from Lee Valley Tools. They're a Canadian company, and I encourage you to shop locally as much as possible. The last tool that I want to showcase here brings us towards the end of the punch needle process. Now, a key trick to hemming your punch needle works is ironing. You're going to be doing a lot of ironing to press your hems as far back as possible so that you don't see them peeking out at the sides of your projects. Most of the time, I use a regular iron for this, but it becomes a little bit of a problem when I'm making smaller objects, like this sampler I made for my punch needle certification. This is where my last tool comes in. This is a Clover mini iron, and I love using this for my smaller punch needle projects because it's less, I don't know what the right word is, unwieldy than a regular sized iron, and makes it easier to press the hems of these smaller works. This mini iron has a bunch of other attachments that come with it, so it's pretty great for all sorts of fiber and textile arts. And that pretty much brings us to the end of this video. Hopefully some of you will find these tools useful or at least kind of funny. Leave a comment if you end up trying any of the tools I use, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.